Welcome to the deep dive. So today we're going to unpack some really interesting source material you shared with us. It's 4 scene prompts, and they seem to lay out this story chronologically.
Right, like a narrative arc. Starts one way, ends, well, pretty unsettlingly.
Exactly. So our mission here is to sort of walk through that journey, scene by scene. We'll pull out the key details and see what picture emerges when you put them all together. Okay, so let's dive into that first scene. What does the source material show us? It paints this picture, doesn't it? A Korean woman, maybe 50s, traditional clothes. She looks kind, serene.
Yeah, and she's in front of this small religious craft factory, peaceful countryside setting.
And surrounded by followers. Devoted followers, the source says. They see her as a kind of spiritual mother.
There's maybe a hint of mystery mention, but the main vibe is definitely peace, faith. It's this charismatic leader figure. And what's so striking, just based on that source description, is how carefully that perception is, like, constructed. You get this really strong sense of calm, of devotion, which is, powerful storytelling, especially given what comes next.
Absolutely. Because from that almost idyllic picture, the sources just shift gears completely.
Yeah.
Scene 2 throws us into something totally different, an investigation.
Right. A Korean police officer. Cluttered office, the source says.
And this detail really jumps out. A bulletin board, covered in red string photos, connecting people labeled as fraud victims.
Yeah, that immediately brings in conflict, suspicion. It tells you that first scene, that serene image, it wasn't the whole story. Or at least there's another side to it.
And part of that scene, a really critical detail from the source. A woman. Could be the leader, right?
It seems likely.
She's shown secretly escaping. Back door. Covering her face. Low-key lighting, it says. Adds to the whole mood.
Definitely. This isn't the serene spiritual mother anymore. This is someone, trying to slip away unseen.
That specific action.
Yeah.
Hiding the face. The back exit. It's a classic sign in a story, isn't it?
It doesn't just suggest something's wrong. It shows active evasion, trying to avoid being found out.
It totally reframes that first image, just based on what these sources give us.
Completely.
Which leads us pretty dramatically into the third scene described in your material, a discovery.
And the location is specific, a dimly lit attic in a factory.
Okay, and this is where the sources, well, they get really grim. What was found?
32 bodies, lifeless. Lying on the floor, that's what the source describes.
32?
And it doesn't stop there. The source includes these really disturbing specifics. Some bodies had their hands and feet tied. And mouths stuffed with cotton. And it mentions a woman, possibly the leader, was found among them. Stark details right from the source prompt.
Wow. That's horrific. And the source even notes the police reacting in horror as they investigate.
Understandably.
The contrast with that first scene, the peaceful countryside, it's just jarring. Those specifics, tied limbs, stuffed mouths, they're hard to even picture.
And those details are so critical, aren't they? Because they describe a scene with, very specific physical conditions based purely on the source description. They raise immediate questions. They're more than just bodies were found.
Definitely more. And then finally, the sources show us the aftermath, how it was presented, a newspaper front page.
Yeah, and the headline on that page, according to the source material, it's chilling. Cult, mass suicide shocks nation.
Mass suicide. And the image with it.
Symbolic. Silhouettes praying, shadowy figure in the background, probably meant to be the leader. It feels.
Yeah.
Somber, unresolved.
So let's just quickly trace that path again based on your sources. You start with this serene leader, spiritual mother, peaceful factory, then bam, investigation into fraud. She escapes, hiding her face.
Right. Then the truly awful discovery in the attic, 32 bodies. And those specific unsettling details, tied hands, stuffed mouths.
And finally, you get the newspaper headline, Cult Mass Suicide Shocks Nation. It's quite a trajectory, presented through these snapshots. So as you, the listener, think about this sequence from the sources provided, what does it all mean? Consider that journey. Peace and devotion, then investigation, escape, horror, and then that official label.
Yeah, and maybe this raises a question, and this is strictly based only on the source material we've looked at today. Given those very specific details mentioned in the third scene, the tied hands and feet, the stuffed mouths, does that term mass suicide from the final scene's headline, does it feel like it fully captures the scene described in the third prompt? Or, just looking at the information in these sources, does it leave you wondering if there might be other ways to interpret what happened?